Puerto Rico shows how hungry international audiences are for professional wrestling. The Brittany Abrams lawsuit makes some damning claims against WWE writers. Rumors surrounding an AEW TV deal indicate a huge injection of cash for the company. Should Matt Riddle change his moniker from Original Bro to Original Ho? All this and more, this time on Wrestling with the Business. From the palatial Insane Game Studios in beautiful Saratoga Springs, New York, this is Wrestling with the Business. I'm the varsity athlete, Jeremy Bodette, and of course I'm joined by my brothers-in-arms, the pragmatic Adam Perry and Matthew More Than Man Lambert. And as always, we're going through the ins and outs, the ups and downs, the high spots and the chair shots in the world of professional wrestling. So let's get right into it, and let's start with SmackDown. SmackDown this week came from Puerto Rico as a preparation for Backlash this week. I can say right off the bat that there wasn't a whole lot of content. This was mostly just hype for Backlash. The program opened with Rey Mysterio, who cut a very babyface promo almost completely in Spanish, and that ended with him basically taking a cheap shot from Dominic, which set up the Mysterio-Vega, Mysterio-Ripley main event, which of course was only if Adam Pearce made it official via Michael Cole. We never actually heard back on it, but the match happened, so I assume he approved it.
Yep.
The OC went over on the Viking Raiders next, who I think have overtaken The Miz as the best paid jobbers in the entire WWE universe. Michael Cole explained the rules for the new World Championship tournament starting on Raw on Monday.
Oh boy.
Maybe you didn't see my quotes. Rules. Bianca Belair got saved by Liv Rod when she was attacked by Damage Control during her promo in preparation for Backlash.
You mean Raw Women's Champion, Bianca Belair.
Of course, I'm sorry. Raw Women's Champion, Bianca Belair. Spoiler, she retained her Raw Championship the following night at Backlash. The Street Profits went over on Imperium. That's the non-Gunther version. It wasn't a squash match, but it was kind of like a squash match. I mean, there wasn't a lot of back and forth, and it was a very short match, but I still love Imperium. They are excellent wrestlers.
Yes.
The more camera time they get, the better. Nakamura finally went up against Karrion Kross. It was an extremely forgettable match, and he got to keep his honor. Cameron Grimes called out Baron Corbin backstage to try to get a match right in front of Adam Pearce, who thankfully approved it in the most non-alpha way possible. And finally, LWO went over on Judgment Day. This is the Mysterio-Ripley versus Mysterio-Vega match. Rey ended up pinning Dom to go over. Judgment Day comes out, begins to beat down Rey, and then LWO shows up, Bad Bunny leading the way with his kendo stick, saves the day. I give it 2 out of 5 stars. This was probably the least amount of wrestling SmackDown has seen in at least the last month or so. However, most of it was taken up with Backlash hype. A lot of promos, getting interrupted, trying to raise the heat. I will say that the crowd did add a significant element of excitement that would not have been there otherwise. I think this probably would have been a 1-star if it were any other week. So with that, let's move on to Raw.
Raw. Before I do that, I just wanted to take a very quick sidebar. Folks, if you follow us on social media, you did notice that we at Wrestling with the Business had the honor of meeting WWE Hall of Famer Teddy Long at the Saratoga Comic-Con this past weekend.
Playa.
And on behalf of the show and everybody involved, we want to say thank you to Teddy Long. He was very gracious with his time, very polite, super cool.
Great guy.
Also want to take the opportunity to thank Sam Chase. He runs the Saratoga Comic-Con. We wouldn't have gotten that opportunity without him. And, missing tonight, our CEO, Dan Shevlin, he played a big hand in getting us that meet and greet as well. So just on behalf of the show, we want to say thank you, playa.
Thank you.
All right, on to Raw. This is we're kicking off the tournament for the World Heavyweight Championship. We got 8 matches instead of the normal 6.
Nice.
But we didn't get much more ring time. We only got 1 hour and 2 minutes of ring time.
No. Better than last week.
Better than last week, but it still is a 3-hour show. No 6-man tags,
Boring.
but we got 2 triple threat matches.
So much for those
Might
WWE
as well
Trios
been this-
titles.
Yeah, so anyway, we kick off the first match is Seth Rollins, Nakamura, and Damian Priest, 13 minutes, 20 seconds. Rollins wins. I think everybody knew Rollins was going to win. Good match to get the crowd fired up. And then Raw kind of lost steam after that. Next match was Mustafa Ali versus Otis, 2 minutes, 18 seconds. A forgettable match with Ali getting the win.
Otis has been losing a lot lately.
Yeah, he and Gable have just become jobbers, and now they're throwing in I don't even know the girl's name, some girl to...
Maxine Dupree.
It's a shame, too. They're great.
Yeah, and they're throwing her in to cause some sort of love triangle that no one cares about. Match number 2, we go back to the tournament. Finn Balor, Cody Rhodes, and The Miz. Finn Balor gets the win. Storytelling-wise, and I don't understand why we're going back to Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes after Cody Rhodes gets a phenomenal clean win.
He has to face more adversity.
Make him earn it.
Okay. We're gonna go there later.
we'll get into it.
We'll go
We
there
got time.
later. We'll go there later. But storytelling wise, it was having Brock Lesnar show up and get involved. If you're not going all in with Cody Rhodes to win this thing, this is a good way to take him out of the tournament without actually beating him.
Right.
So Finn Balor goes on. So setting up our match later, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, to move on in the tournament.
My 2 favorites.
Next match, we got Rhea Ripley versus Dana Brooke. Total squash match just to make Rhea look good. I don't even know why we
I didn't
did
know
this.
Dana Brooke still worked there.
Yep.
It was just it was a beatdown. 1 minute and 42 seconds of But I did like the appearance of Natty Neidhart. I think her and Ripley will put on a great show if they go down that path. Because
she came out, and there was no crowd love for her.
No.
there was
they've
there,
done
but
nothing
there was
with
no
it.
crowd. But to be fair, there was no crowd love all night.
Yeah.
I mean, it was obvious the overdubs that they were pumping into the stadium when Brock Lesnar was getting heat on Cody Rhodes, and that
To go from Backlash and the great crowd in Puerto Rico to now this crowd.
Corpus Christi, right? Corpus Christi.
And we'll talk about it was Jacksonville, yeah.
Jacksonville. Yeah, Jacksonville.
We'll talk about Backlash in a minute because I have some thoughts on Backlash. Next match 5, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn versus Imperium. Owens and Zayn get the win, 9 minutes, 54 seconds. Again, good match. What you expect from these 4. Again, crowd's not into it. No one really cares.
Yeah.
Match 6, Zoe Stark versus Nikki Cross, 2 minutes, 29 seconds. Stark gets the win. They're, pushing her. Again, okay. No one really cares.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Match number 7, Dominic Mysterio versus Xavier Woods, 10 minutes, 46 seconds. Mysterio gets the win. Xavier Woods basically just kind of jobbed.
I was going to say the second best paid jobber.
Second, but yeah, I mean, but to be fair, with how much heat is on Dominic, it's good to have him win every once in a while. It's just gonna boost his stock.
You can't have him only talking.
Yeah. And then we, the main event, which is, Finn Balor, Seth Rollins, the final match of this round of the tournament. The winner goes to the semifinals, and it's Seth Rollins. And I can almost guarantee that he will be your next World Heavyweight Champion.
That was a good match.
It was a very good match. But it's Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. I wouldn't expect any less. So
it's a rematch from the Universal Championship finals.
But
5 years ago, 6 years
taking
ago?
Cody Rhodes out, I think it's safe to say that the person winning this belt is going to be Seth Rollins.
And this was the first official episode where the draft is in effect.
Takes effect.
So,
one interesting thought I just had about Jacksonville and the crowd. They're in Con Town.
Yeah, that's AEW's hometown.
That's Con territory.
Well, yeah. Even Cody Rhodes, he opens the show with a monologue.
Yep.
And he even referenced, I spent COVID with you guys.
Yep,
You
that's
know,
right.
he put in that little,
Didn't get a pop out of it.
Yeah, it just
he
shows.
actually did. He did get a pretty good pop out, but Cody's over like rubber. He could say anything right now and get pretty much a good reaction.
It kind of shows there is a difference between an AEW crowd and a WWE crowd.
Yeah.
WWE is definitely much more of the casual fan.
Yes.
And
Actually, speaking of which, I think that's a really good transition.
AEW.
AEW Dynamite Wednesday night.
Dynamite came from Detroit, and let me tell you right now, this episode was stacked. I mean, this was practically a pay-per-view. Started out hot with a double Jeopardy match, Ring of Honor champion, world champion Claudio Castagnoli versus Ring of Honor tag champion Rey Fenix. They just put the pedal to the metal and did not stop from bell to bell. The winner of the match gets a title shot against the other opponent. Claudio won, and so him and a partner of his choosing are going to get a shot at the Ring of Honor tag titles.
Miro?
Excellent match.
Miro? Who's he going to choose?
Who?
Miro just came back.
Oh, no.
Sorry, I don't want to steal. Who's he going to pick?
It'll be one of his, one of the Blackpool.
Oh, I
boys.
forgot. Yeah, he's in Blackpool.
Yeah.
Okay.
But since you mentioned that, right after that, Miro made a return, was seen backstage walking into Tony Khan's office.
5-second spoiler. Sorry.
All the matches on this show were excellent. They had a international championship match, Orange Cassidy versus Daniel Garcia.
Another good match.
Excellent match. Submissions back and forth. The last several matches Cassidy's been in, he's just been eking out the win, doing a roll-up or whatever. So
Good
I don't
story.
think he's going to be holding that belt for much longer, it seems like. But we'll see. We got the first Trios championship match under the new rules.
Woo!
They could have
Take
done
notes, WWE. Vince.
They could have done a little better with the stipulation, I think.
Yeah, it was
but
kinda lame.
yeah,
Both
it was
brands.
still.
What was it? No breaks on the ropes.
So it's no rope breaks, 20 counts outside of the ring instead of 10, and the challenger picks the stip, but they were facing Best Friends, who's a comedy team, and they didn't know they were supposed to pick a stipulation, so backstage they were just like, yeah, Julia Hart freaks us out, so we want all witches banned from ringside.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's pretty lame.
whatever. Good match, though. House of Black, they're excellent. Fun to watch. Speaking of Julia Hart, she had a no-holds-barred match with Anna Jas. Some good chair spots, doing suplexes on the floor, onto the chairs and everything. Pretty decent match. And then the main event, steel cage match, Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley. Oof. They had a chair wrapped in barbed wire. And yes, it was real. Their backs were all cut up and bleeding.
Right out of the gate, too.
Right
He
out
came
of
in
the-
with that chair.
Moxley took off the top rope, used the turnbuckle hook as a fish hook in Omega's mouth. Broken glass. The wall of the cage broke.
I've never seen anybody crotch himself on a cage before.
Oh, that looked brutal.
nasty.
Omega definitely got hurt there. The end of the match, though, saw the most interesting thing happen. Omega does his one-wing angel, which nobody has kicked out of. And then the pin is broken up by Don Callis with a screwdriver to the head. Don Callis has turned on Kenny Omega. Didn't see it coming. But other than that, we had the Miro return. We had Thunder Rosa return. But the main thing... Oh, this was awesome. Tony Khan
Yeah.
made a big announcement that next week he's going to make a big announcement. You know he is just trolling people now. Come on. He's got to know.
And he doesn't want to be an on-screen presence.
Right.
Every other week, he's making a big announcement.
But it looks like next week they'll be announcing Collision or some other TV deal. That's when the Warner Brothers Discovery...
It'll be something related to Collision,
Right.
I bet, yeah.
But the main thread going through this whole show was the Pillars match at Double or Nothing. They really did a lot to build up to that pay-per-view, and it's still 2 weeks away. All four of the four Pillars had video packages. Darby, Jungle Boy, and Sammy, their videos were all about how proud they are to be wrestlers, all the training they do, how happy they are to be going for the title. MJF's like, nah, man.
He's the best.
He compared the four Pillars to the Beatles.
And he's not Ringo, I bet.
Sammy Guevara is Ringo, incredibly talented and incredibly stupid.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Jungle Boy is George Harrison, calm, cool, collected. Darby is like John Lennon, the brooding artist. But MJF is Paul McCartney. He's the best. He has the career with the most longevity. And then what was interesting is he went on to list all of his accomplishments in AEW, and they showed video packages with CM Punk in it. He said he's beat CM Punk, he's beat Daniel Bryan, Moxley, Jericho, all of them. He's been in the dog collar match, the last Iron Man match, and then at Double or Nothing, he's going to be in the best ever 4-way match. And it was really, really good promo, as is usual. But yeah, overall, this episode was fantastic. Pay-per-view worthy episode. Definitely go out of your way to see it.
Can I just say, think about how, would you give this 4 out of 5? 5 out of 5?
4.5, yeah.
You'd give this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Think about who wasn't in this show. None of the 4 pillars. Britt Baker, the Hardys. Think about Adam Cole. Think about who is missing from this pay-per-view and the quality show that they're able to put on. See, stuff like this makes me really excited about All In, because they aren't even going all in on this show. They're just putting, it's not JV, it's not fair to say JV, but they are not playing with a full squad. And they're able to produce something like that.
They're doing like NXT used to do. They used to have certain wrestlers one week, certain wrestlers the next week, and they would split it up so that every time you saw someone, it was special. And you wouldn't see the same stuff over and over and over again.
As great as the show was, I think it's safe to say AEW's issue has been, though, consistency.
It's true.
Can they produce a show of the same caliber next week? Obviously they can, but will they do it?
Will they? Yeah.
The crowd played a huge role. Detroit, amazing crowd. I lived in Detroit for 5 years. I can tell you they love their wrestling out there. How many wrestlers are from the Detroit area?
Right.
A zillion of them. So there's a great culture out there for wrestling, and I believe it's the first time AEW's been there. And you can tell there's a little bit of that Chicago-Detroit rivalry. They're trying to outdo that other city, which is basically AEW's hometown. They played so many shows there. So awesome. That's really great. All right. News and rumors. I'll be stepping in to cover for the our GM there because he's out today. So first thing I'd be interested to talk about, and I saw this yesterday all over Twitter. So Matthew Riddle's sex addiction. Apparently this is just unique. It's news and rumors, dude. This is news and rumors.
Okay.
So apparently Daniela posted about it on Twitter. Basically, I don't know if you guys know, but a video surfaced. You probably don't, but a video surfaced where you can see his manhood, basically. And now I guess a bunch of people are sending it to Daniela, his ex-girlfriend. And so she basically called him a sexual predator on Twitter, and then called out his current girlfriend, who's an adult actress named Misha Montana, and was basically like, yeah, I hope he gets help, and you better put him on a leash, I think is what she actually said. So I must say that the addictions that wrestlers are dealing with seem to be getting tamer as the years pass.
Forget the somas and the coke and the
I don't even
heroin.
think anyone talks about Jake the Snake's sex addiction from the 1980s. Like, when they list all of the things that are wrong with Jake the Snake and the Ultimate Warrior and all those guys, I don't think sex addiction's anywhere on the list. So that just stuck out to me as like that's the big thing that people are talking about as far as like addiction and that kind of a thing. In the
pot is
wrestling world.
legal now, so they can't talk about that anymore.
They can make little jokes. Actually, on NXT, did you watch NXT? On NXT this week, they made a little quip about like the room happened to be kind of smoky, and they were like, "Oh, I thought the original Bro was here." They made some quip like that. Okay, next piece of news and rumors. This is from the Sportster. New AEW rumored TV deal is reportedly worth about $1 billion for 5 years with Warner Discovery.
Wow.
So $200 million a year. The 2019 deal expires, I believe, at the end of this year.
Isn't that what WWE got for SmackDown?
That is the same, yes.
5 years, right?
That WWE, yes, it was $1 billion from Fox over 5 years. And actually, if you think about it, this is from Ryan Frederick on Twitter. I'm just going to read it. Here's some math for you. WWE gets $470 million a year for Raw and SmackDown, and they average a .57 rating for 5 hours per week. If you take that Dynamite gets 0.28 and Rampage gets 0.1, and you can guess that Collision's going to be somewhere in the middle, that's 0.19. That's a 0.21 for 5 hours. So that's actually like $200 to $220 maybe $1 million. It makes a lot of sense when you look at the evaluation.
Wow.
And think about what the injection of that kind of cash would mean for a company like that. I mean,
That's huge.
$200 million a year. I mean,
They
I
could
don't
bring
think
in a Bill Goldberg for one shot.
it wouldn't be nearly the kind of risk that you'd be looking at, as far as buying a Wembley, or taking out the Garden. I mean, you need $500,000 just to turn the lights on in the Garden.
Yeah.
Which you'd be much more willing to take that risk if you're sitting on a pile of $200 million just for doing the same thing you've been doing every week for how many years.
Right.
So that's interesting. We're going to be talking about lawsuits today, so I thought it would be appropriate to bring up a lawsuit that just recently got not dismissed, but maybe, I don't know, changed. Marvin Jackson is a guy that filed a lawsuit over WrestleMania 38 in Dallas. Some pyrotechnics went off, supposedly gave him some deafness and some hearing issues, and basically he was suing WWE to try to go to a jury because he thought he could convince a jury of it, and a judge basically said, no, you're going to go to arbitration. So for those of you that don't know, anytime you agree to go to a wrestling show, you're basically promising that you're not going to sue them, that you're going to arbitrate with them. So this is a judge basically backing that up.
I'm pretty sure they say that right when you buy the ticket. Isn't there some sort of fine print?
I think if you flip the ticket over, and I think I've even been to a couple shows where there's like somebody like reading it, or it like shows up on the screen of like the like up above the ring and stuff. That's like, hey, by being here, you're
just before show starts.
yeah, you're doing all kinds of
right.
stuff. From Wrestling Observer, this is exciting AEW news. Will Ospreay's officially booked for AEW All In at Wembley Stadium.
Yes.
Will Ospreay's one of my favorite. He's just exceptional. He's just wonderful. The perfect addition to that show. He is, of course, from that neck of the woods, let's say.
Yep.
So he's going to go over very
That's going to be
well.
great. Yep.
He would be great as like a curtain jerk or something, I think.
Speaking of which, do we know what the ticket sales are up to now?
You are one step ahead of me. So per WrestleNomics today, AEW is now over 60,000 tickets sold for All In at Wembley. This currently makes it the 35th highest grossing pro wrestling gate in history, adjusted to $2023.
Wow.
So they're somewhere around in the neighborhood of $8 million right now on gate alone. So they're definitely in the black, so to speak, for that. And then the last thing I just wanted to review in news and rumors is I want to go over all of the ratings. Rampage on Friday, 294,000 viewers. SmackDown Friday, just over 2 million, 2.05 million. Raw, 1.78 million. NXT from Tuesday, 601,000. So doing basically twice the numbers of Rampage, which is interesting to note. And then Dynamite got 877,000, which is good for them.
Yes, very good.
They're stuck in the 800 range, and they're now up to the high 800s.
Last week, all the ratings were down because of the basketball finals.
Still going on.
Still going on.
Still going on.
That's why they were stacking the shows. That's why AEW is so stacked. That's apparently why the World Heavyweight Tournament is happening on SmackDown, is to try and up the ratings.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it worked. They basically got an extra 100,000 viewers this week out of thin air. I mean, they did not go. They weren't going anywhere else. There's nothing else on Wednesday night. So whatever it is, it worked. All right, so let's talk about Backlash since we're here. So the way I've got this split up is we've got the bueno, the malo, and the feo. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So I'll start with the good, and if you guys have anything good to add, we can just talk about it. So I thought that, and I cut a quick video on this one the night of the show because I was just so overcome by this. The crowd was outstanding from the very get-go. Now listen, if you watch Friday Night SmackDown like me, Bianca Belair was getting a great response from everybody on Friday night. On Saturday night, they wanted Sky to go over.
They were booing Belair.
They were booing Belair huge. I mean, is this a whole different group of people? No, like these people are going to go and watch both nights. And they had a complete turnaround, and they were unbelievable the entire night. Really, to me, showed what we talked about a couple of weeks ago about spreading internationally.
Right.
I mean, they treated this, that was better than any WrestleMania crowd I've seen in the last 15 years. I mean, not since the Attitude Era can I think of any crowd, but certainly even a WrestleMania crowd being as good as that crowd was in Puerto Rico.
Oh, I mean, it depends on the crowd and depends on the moment, too.
These were nothing moments, though. This
Yeah,
pay-per-view
that's
meant
true.
nothing.
Yeah.
It was so minuscule, but they really raised the bar, in my opinion.
I had little to no expectations whatsoever for this show, and I was pleasantly
No,
surprised.
it was a great show. That
Yeah.
they put on a great show.
And the crowd had a big part to do with that, too.
Yeah. The Brock Lesnar, Cody Rhodes was fantastic. I loved the finish. We saw a wrestling move for a finish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I loved that. You know, which is why I have such an issue with them continuing the story. Now, if there was shady business, the way that thing ended, and there was unfinished business between them,
I was expecting a low blow.
I could understand continuing the fight, but I mean, Brock Lesnar put him over clean as clean could be. So why are we tying Cody up for the next 4 or 5 pay-per-views like this?
Mm-hmm.
When the fans
Hey.
clearly want.
Hey, wait a
him.
minute. We're not at the bad yet.
Well,
This is only
I know.
Think good thoughts, Adam.
Brock getting blood the hard way, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
I had to watch that a couple of times to make sure it was actual.
That looked pretty cool. Yeah, he got some color.
Yeah.
Omos performed quite well.
Yeah.
That was his
Yeah.
best match I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And they loved it backstage. I mean, there were reports of Bruce Pritchard just loving it.
It's hard to go. I mean, unless you're the Fiend, you can't really go wrong with Seth Rollins in a match.
I mean, that's part of it. I
Yeah.
think they wanted to see. I mean, if you can't make it work with Seth Rollins, then we
Right.
might have to show you the door, no matter how big and interesting you are. How cool was it to see Carlito?
Yeah.
And Savio for that
But-
matter.
And Savio Vega, yeah.
But and again, what a great moment that was. I mean, even I was vocal. I didn't give 2 flying fucks about Bad Bunny, but he put on a show.
Yeah.
He put
Yeah.
on a show.
That whole match.
And but I know we're in the good right now, but this is where I kind of fade into the bad a little bit. Yeah, I'll save it.
Dude,
Yeah.
I'm asking you to wait a minute. Just wait 1 minute.
I know. I know.
All right, then the last good thing I'll say, because you're clearly busting at the seams here, is I thought that triple threat match was a good match.
For the U.S. title?
It was the triple threat match with Austin Aries.
Theory.
I'm sorry, Austin Aries. Austin Theory, Bobby
Oh, that's a
Lashley,
callback.
and Bronson Reed. Technically I wasn't wrong, right? It was 6 minutes and 50 seconds long.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody thinks that a triple threat match needs to be 33% longer than a regular match.
No.
It doesn't.
No.
It really doesn't. It was spot after spot after spot. They spaced things nicely. It told a good story. Bronson Reed earned a little bit of my respect, frankly.
There were a couple spots that was one-on-one while the third guy was out, but for the most part, all 3 of them were in the ring the whole time.
And it was big spots, and it was big, showy, firework. I mean, that's what you want out of a triple threat. You want... So you can hit more big spots in the same amount of time, and guys aren't getting exhausted and they're getting gassed. I think that's exactly what they did.
And the heel snuck in and stole the win at the end. It worked.
It was perfect. It was a great. So I thought that was an excellent match. That one stuck out to me. So, all right, Adam, I'll let you start. Let's talk about the bad.
The bad. The only thing that really bugged me is because the way the Bad Bunny match plays out. Clearly, this is a Puerto Rican love fest, and a tribute to the Puerto Rican and Latino talent. So with that, as I'm seeing this play out, this makes me feel really bad about the Rhea Ripley Vega match.
Yeah.
If this was just a normal pay-per-view, that match is fine and probably the way it should be. And going forward, that's probably how the match should have gone. But if you're obviously turning this thing into a tribute to your Latino wrestlers,
You got to have her go over.
why not? Why couldn't you give her that
Why,
moment?
for 30 days? Just to have somebody take
You
it
don't
back?
even need, Bubba Ray said on Busted Open, you don't even need 30 days. Flip it back the next Monday night or the week after.
But
2
the
weeks.
thing about that is,
Yeah.
Rhea is on Raw now, and Vega is on SmackDown.
Yeah,
so it would
you'd
make
have to
more
give
sense.
Rhea
it was
another
for the
title.
SmackDown title.
Yeah.
You'd have to give Rhea another title in
But-
2 weeks or whatever.
But it's like I said last week. This is an AEW. WWE does not let people win in their hometown.
But you know what?
But they allowed it for the main event. That's my problem. If
for which main event?
for the Bad Bunny main event, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know,
Main
so,
They
event.
saved it all for him.
Yeah. So that, but that's the thing. If you're turning it into that, you have to put all the chips in.
Right.
If you're going to tribute those wrestlers, I mean, Carlito coming back, Savio Vega coming back. I mean, like they're like
Yeah, the
they're
Puerto
showcasing-
Rican kendo stick.
They're
gimmick.
showcasing their Hispanic wrestlers, and to cut her out.
She came out with
Which-
a flag.
Yeah,
I mean,
to cut her out of this celebration to me, that was wrong.
I agree.
That was wrong, and that's what I'll say about as far as the bad.
And you mentioned the main event. The fact that the Bad Bunny match wasn't the actual
Yes.
main event; it
Yeah.
was the co-main event.
Yes.
Even though it was third from the top, that should have been the main.
yeah, what a
Right.
great way to go out.
With Bad Bunny on
if
everyone's
you-
shoulders.
If you listen to this week's Wrestling with the Business, Pritchard and Conrad get into this argument: what is the main event? It doesn't have to be the last match. Yeah, which
that's bullshit.
yeah,
Come on.
that's Pritchard's. But
Oh yeah, we're gonna have our least best.
But that was the
match.
best
Right.
part of the podcast because Pritchard, he gets pissed off.
He's gotta defend it.
He goes, you can't even define main event. What's the main event? What is the main event to you? And Conrad goes, last match. It's just like,
Exactly.
so yeah, no, I mean, if there's only one really big complaint I can say about that is to not include Vega in the celebration that you were obviously creating for your Hispanic wrestlers was a cheap shot.
Yeah.
I think the fact that you, the grizzled, old wrestling fan veteran, are saying that is a tribute to how good the show was.
Yeah.
Because you wanted the fairy tale ending, just like I wanted it.
Sometimes you need
Yep.
to have that.
And I
Agreed.
And that
especially
was-
with the way the crowd gave.
And again, that goes back to my biggest bitch about WrestleMania this
Her
year.
family was in the front row.
You have to have the fairy tale ending every once in a while, and especially on the big shows. This show, you're showcasing your Latino wrestlers. You got to give it to the fans. WrestleMania is the Super Bowl of wrestling. You can't have the guy get screwed over in the
Yeah, if you're gonna let Indy Hartwell get carried off like a princess, you should let Zelina Vega win the title for a couple of weeks.
perfect. When we finally get Sting in WrestleMania, it's Sting and Triple H, and the whole thing was hyped up as here's the dream match that everybody wanted to see. Obviously everybody wanted to see Taker and Sting, but this is a close second. All right, you have the involvement of NWO, you have the involvement of DX, bringing the nostalgia back, and they don't affect the match, which was great. But yet Sting still goes out with a sledgehammer to the face. I would have respected that match way more if Sting went down clean. Same thing with Cody Rhodes. Had he just went down clean, I mean, he should have won. But to have outside interference like that, it's bullshit. And I think I'm gonna get a T-shirt that says bullshit because I find myself saying it a lot.
Anybody have anything ugly to share?
Well, I mean, we mentioned Vega and the spot where she threw the sandal at Rhea and completely missed her.
Chancla, you uneducated.
Sorry.
Well, we know she
But
won't
yeah.
be invited to throw the
It
first
is-
pitch out anyway.
I think it's kind of weird that this is the second pay-per-view in a row that they did something like that. Remember, they had Ray pull his belt off and beat Dominic with it.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised.
Well, he beat him with it. He didn't throw it at him from
I'm
outside
just
the ring.
right, but that's the cultural thing, right? I mean, they even had to do it in commentary, like, oh, if you're not, what did Michael Cole say? Like, if you're not familiar with Latin American culture, you're about to be in a second. And she hurls this flip-flop at her, and it's
It was like
you can hear everybody in the
See,
crowd.
in about 2 years, that GIF is going to be just as famous as the blood missing Kevin Nash.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was. You're right. That does fall into the category of ugly for me because it's kind of like I'm surprised more people aren't noticing the pattern. Maybe they're caught up in the stories enough, they're invested enough that it doesn't really bother them. But I'm surprised that more people aren't like, a lot of Latin American abuse tributes going on here.
Right.
Like,
The other thing I'll mention about this is I watched this pay-per-view with my fiance. She's not a wrestling fan, but she likes AEW. She likes AEW All Access. And when she started watching this, immediately she was drawing comparisons. She said the entrance themes are terrible. They're not nearly as catchy or interesting as in AEW. And she really doesn't like the wrestlers. She thinks they have no personality. They're not relatable. They don't interact with the crowd like they do in AEW. So
less indie.
I told her I would bring that up. So
It's more glossy, more magazine-like.
It's controlled.
Produced,
Yeah.
controlled. Actually, that's a really good transition, unless you have something to add into our next topic. So the Brittany Abrams lawsuit, we haven't really done a deep dive on wrestling with the business, but we thought we'd take 10 or 12 minutes here to talk about it a little bit. And I think for now, just given the volatility of the situation, we're not really going to pass any judgment on whether this is or isn't true. I think what would be more interesting is just look at the claims that are made and consider them and maybe consider what this says. Because I think if even a portion of this stuff is true, and I'm not even talking about the claims of racial bias and discrimination stuff, I'm just talking about, I'm gonna, there's some storyline proposals that are documented here that are both depressing and inspirational. They're depressing because it's like, oh my God, this is what you're coming up with. And it's inspirational because you're like, I can do that. It really makes you feel like you could be a part of the world's most popular professional wrestling organization. So let's just talk really quickly about our cast of characters here. And I'm going to run through them real quick because there's a lot of them. So WWE itself as an organization is being sued. And named individuals in the suit are Chris Dunn, Ryan Callahan. Chris Dunn is a senior writer. Ryan Callahan is a lead writer. Jen Pepperman is a senior writer. Christine Lubrano is the senior vice president of creative writing relations. Mike Heller is a lead writer. And of course, Vince and Stephanie McMahon are named.
And all those writers still work there today?
As far as I'm aware, they do. Yes, I'm not aware of any of them getting fired. I can tell you that the big names on there that you and I recognize are still there. There's Brittany Abrams is also referenced in here. And literally, I'm going to read directly from the filing. Brittany Abrams is an individual black African-American female who is a resident of the state of New York in Kings County. And at all times relevant of this complaint, after April 7th, 2022, she was a former employee of World Wrestling Entertainment. She's a writer, employed as a writer. That's literally all that we know about her. In addition, 4 employees, fellow writers, are named in the suit basically as witnesses to attest to what's going on. There are 12 fundamental claims that are made inside the filing. So here's the order of events, and I'm just going to run through it. So on November 3rd, 2020, the height of the COVID pandemic, roughly 1 week before I got COVID, she was hired to write as a temp for SmackDown. She was considered exemplary. She was commended by Vince and Steph by name, and Bruce Pritchard for her excellent writing.
I love you.
As a matter of fact, Pritchard recommended that she write for Raw as well as SmackDown. So
High
she
praise.
was technically given a promotion. She always received merit increases for her good work. And in May of 2021, she was hired full-time. And this is really when the claims start coming out and things start getting a little ugly. So, for example, there was a script that Kevin Dunn was writing intended for Bianca Belair, in which, and I'm going to quote directly here, Bianca Belair was asked to say, quote, don't make me take my earrings and beat your ass. Sorry. Don't make me take off my earrings and beat your ass. Which are lines, this is again from the filing, which are lines based upon cruel, ugly stereotypes of dark-skinned black women. Plaintiff asserts that Miss Belair uttering that line was and still is negatively stereotypical of race and gender. Prior to the writing of the scene, many of the WWE writers commonly complained that they didn't know what to do with Miss Belair. So the plaintiff, Brittany, undertook researching Miss Belair's background and discovered a fascinating family tree, including an aunt who helped desegregate her high school in the 1960s and an uncle who contributed to science that were world-renowned. Plaintiff included positive references to Miss Belair's rich family history and sent it to Dunn for feedback. She wrote a draft that included these details.
Can I just stop you for a second? So she didn't write this, and why is she complaining about it?
So what you're saying is that there was a script written by Dunn that included this line for Belair.
Okay.
The plaintiff, Abrams, saw that, didn't want to use it because she thought it was discriminatory and racist, did some research on Belair, found this rich family history, and rewrote this promo, this script for a promo, to include some of these details and sent it to Dunn. Basically saying, hey, this is my first draft. Please review it and let me know what you think.
But was it her assignment to write it?
No.
The implication is that Dunn said, make sure you include this line.
Oh, okay.
It's just implied.
Because that's what I'm getting. I'm like, so
no, it's
because
just
I'm saying
implied.
like Kevin Dunn wrote this and asked
Chris Dunn.
Chris Dunn.
Hang on, listen.
Yep.
Within and around plaintiff's first 2 weeks of employment with WWE, she shadowed a male white Caucasian writer, defendant Dunn, who wrote a backstage scene for Bianca Belair. Upon information and belief, Miss Belair is one of 2 dark-skinned black African-American female wrestlers. The said scene included offensively racist and stereotypical jargon, which the plaintiff found objectionable. By way of example, Dunn wrote this, blah, blah, blah. That said, don't make me take off my earrings. That is stereotypical and racist, so the plaintiff rewrote it to include details about Belair's heritage.
Okay. But I guess what I'm not understanding.
Let me finish, because I think you're going to...
Yep.
After submitting the draft, Dunn told the plaintiff that the draft, quote, looks great. I'm going to make some edits and submit it to Callahan. Dunn subjected the plaintiff's draft to substantial editing, including inserting the said racial and gender stereotypes back into it.
Okay.
That same night, plaintiff complained about the racially offensive and discriminatory nature of the scene to one of her WWE supervisors, defendant Callahan. Plaintiff emailed Callahan and said, I know I'm new and I'm not trying to be disrespectful or step on Dunn's or anyone's toes, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Miss Belair's scene includes racial jargon and offensive stereotypes, particularly her go home line. Plaintiff also requested clarification for protocol on moving forward with her complaint. In conversation with Miss Belair the following day, Miss Belair informed plaintiff that she told Dunn 3 different times that she doesn't want to say that line, but he never listens to me, and he puts that line in every week. Belair said the script's discriminatory lines made her look, quote, ghetto.
So
Plaintiff relayed the information to Dunn and politely offered to edit the lines. Defendants failed and or refused to take any immediate or appropriate corrective action. So she said, take it out, and they didn't.
So the lawsuit is because she's saying this writer is being racist and stereotypical and refusing to change anything.
Yeah, at the end, there's some pretty explicit language about
but,
what's going on.
I understand that, and I understand the sensitivity to the lingo that's being scripted. But what I guess from a legal complaint standpoint, this sounds like a complaint that Bianca Belair should be making, not a third party.
Well, she
You're
did.
not making yourself look very good because that actually kind of occurs later. Something similar to what you're describing occurs later in the filing.
Okay.
Because
that's what I thought. I thought she did complain.
Yeah, because
eventually she goes to HR, and HR basically says, "Yeah, but is he talking about you?" And she goes, "No," and they're like, "Okay, then it's not a problem."
Right.
So that's the cusp of it.
Okay.
Let me continue, because that's just one of 12 claims that they make. Actually, I'm going to skip that one, because that one's kind of not... Okay, all right, let's skip to the claim that includes... There's only one of these 12 claims where Vince and Stephanie are actually included, and you'll see, this seems a little flimsy to me. It was discussed on the WWE Writers Slack channel before a show that a new wrestler, Reggie, would dress in drag, complete with a wig and tights, so he could partner with Carmella, a female wrestler, in a tag team match against other female wrestlers. So moving into the trans area. Reggie is a dark-skinned African-American black straight male wrestler. Given this pitch was shared via a Slack app, defendants Mr. McMahon and Miss McMahon, as well as other WWE higher-ups, including Mr. Pritchard and Mr. Ed Koskey, were included in the thread. Plaintiff's coworker Miss Listenberger responded to the thread, observing that putting a straight black man in drag might perpetuate harmful stereotypes that would offend viewers. WWE eventually scrapped the discriminatory pitch, but only in response to a white Caucasian individual's protected conduct in the form of Miss Listenberger's complaint. So the claim is they made this racially insensitive pitch, and the only reason why they dropped it is because a white woman told them to. That's the claim. That's the claim. I'm just reading the claim.
Wow.
Here's another example. WWE forced wrestler Apollo Crews to speak with a Nigerian accent just because of his Nigerian heritage.
Yeah, he did that for a while.
Here's another one. By way of another example, in or around spring of 2021, Callahan pitched that a white Caucasian male wrestler with a hunting gimmick would hunt a black male wrestler for fun. In a nutshell, she said, the hunting gimmick pitch for new wrestlers Shane Thorne and Reggie was, since Shane is Australian, we would make him a crocodile hunter, but instead of crocodiles, he hunts people. Subsequently, a storyline was pitched by Callahan where Shane would capture Reggie and constantly beat him up, but Reggie would always escape after being captured. Holding Reggie captive in cages was also discussed. That is a horrifically bad idea, even without the racial context,
Right.
in my opinion. Plaintiff, again, objected to her superior's racially motivated misconduct, specifically stating that a gimmick where a white man is hunting a black African-American man for sport is racist. Callahan laughed and sarcastically responded, "Oh, what? Is that a bad thing?" Callahan's comments and conduct had the purpose and effect of humiliating and intimidating the plaintiff and dramatically altered her work environment for the worse. Then there's some talk of the chair policy. So basically the claim in here is that there are these commemorative chairs, WrestleMania chairs, that basically in years past, members of staff after the show have been able to basically walk off with and to keep
Even
as their
some
own
fans,
souvenirs.
too.
Even some fans. Basically what they say is that WrestleMania 38, there was a lot of joking, a lot of chairs going back and forth between the writer's room and the arena area. Nobody really said anything. So at the end of the show, the day after the second day of WrestleMania, when they were kind of cleaning things up, Brittany Abrahams and another writer took the chairs and then received an email the next day basically saying, what made you think you could do that? You're fired. That's basically...
Right, so there's wrongful termination
That's
in
kind
the
of
lawsuit
the whole,
also.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole chair saga associated with it. One additional claim associated with this, excuse me, one additional claim associated with this has to do with when she went to Human Resources. So in or around the winter of 2021, she complained to Human Resources about being discriminated against, and she met with Jen Pepperman, who's a senior writer. Pepperman, basically, the claim here is that she basically treated the plaintiff and other black and African-American WWE employees poorly compared to other similarly situated white people. Basically, she just had a really short temper, was routinely and unjustifiably raising her voice. She would snap at the plaintiff. She had zero patience. Her tone and countenance routinely differed. So just some generalized complaints there regarding Pepperman. One additional comment here that's particularly interesting to me in regards to storylines, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit here. In or around late November 2021, racially discriminatory comments were casually made by plaintiff's white male Caucasian lead writer Callahan about a Muslim wrestler. They were asked, Ms. Silvers and the plaintiff, the only black writers on the team, so this is where Kayla Silvers, who's a black female writer on the staff as well, they were asked to pitch a love storyline between Aaliyah Mansour and Angel Garza. Ms. Silvers and plaintiff pitched that Mansour has a secret that he's been keeping from Aaliyah. Callahan suggested, quote, how about his secret is that he's behind the 9/11 attacks?
Good Christ almighty.
Oh my gosh.
Ms. Silvers nervously laughed and said, quote,
What, too soon?
Ms. Silvers nervously laughed and said, quote, let's not do that. Let's talk about the other part of the pitch. And Callahan said, oh, I guess you're the lead writer now. Ms. Silvers again laughed nervously and said, just for this moment, so we can talk about something else. Following this, whenever a writer asked Callahan a question, he would reply, quote, ask Ms. Silvers. She's the lead writer now. Additionally, Heller shared a sexist pitch for a Muslim female wrestler wherein the said female wrestler lacked authority over her own mind and body. Again, Ms. Silvers and plaintiff created a love storyline between wrestlers Aaliyah Mansour and Angel Garza. In this pitch, Aaliyah and Mansour were meant to fall in love while a jealous Angel tries to break them up. The pitch made Aaliyah appear intelligent and confident in herself and desires, containing Aaliyah speaking up for herself against both Angel and Mansour and having her love and affection earned. When they made the pitch to Heller, who expressed confusion about Aaliyah and her choices, particularly her never wanting to be with Angel, who was the obvious villain in the story, Heller was also confused that Aaliyah wasn't, quote, crying on the stairs after her breakup with Mansour. So playing into non-feminist racial stereotypes and gender stereotypes there as well. So, yeah, basically then she, I guess the last thing that I'll mention is, so Christine Lubrano, who's named individually, is the Senior Vice President of Creating Writing Relations, and she met with the plaintiff and apparently deliberately downplayed Heller and Callahan's discriminatory remarks by claiming that she, quote, heard it was a joke and wacky things are said in the writer's room all the time. When the plaintiff indicated that doesn't make it okay, Lubrano responded, I know, but look at the waves we're making in this company. 4 years ago, no woman worked in the writer's room. Lubrano followed up and told the plaintiff she was doing a great job and that Pritchard, Mr. McMahon, and Miss McMahon love the plaintiff's writing, but plaintiff should be careful to pick and choose her battles. Soon after that, the incident at WrestleMania 38 occurred and she was let go. So basically, let me just skip right to what she wants. It is clear, despite plaintiff's excellent work performance, defendants actually terminated her employment based on her complaints about defendants' racial discrimination due to her race and gender. While plaintiff's employment with WWE was a harrowing, traumatic experience, the events complained of herein do not reflect a unique incident, as rudimentary internet search paints a similarly distressing picture of discriminatory abuse and misconduct by WWE and those occupying the most powerful positions. So basically, she's asking for basically all of her legal fees to be covered, and all they say is that they want to exceed what's considered the statutory jurisdictional limit, which in New York City for a civil case is $25,000. So I think overall, because there's like 5 or 6 different charges of discrimination and retribution and stuff like that, they're basically saying over $100,000. And then kind of the most interesting claim here is that she wants to be reinstated.
Why would she want to go back and work there?
Right,
So
well, yeah,
this
so-
is the prayer for relief.
God.
The prayer for relief, a declaratory judgment that the actions, conduct, and practices of the defendants complained of herein violate the laws, an injunction in order permanently restraining defendants from engaging in such unlawful conduct, an award of damages in an amount to be determined but will exceed $100,000, an award of damages to be determined at trial, including monetary and non-monetary and punitive damages, an award of costs that plaintiff has incurred in this action, as well as plaintiff's reasonable attorney's fees, and she would like to be reinstated to her job.
Right.
So that is the
Okay.
filing in a nutshell.
That was a big nutshell.
Well, there's a lot there.
So I mean, I
I can see her complaint about the chair thing. If that was common practice and she thought she was doing what everybody else did and it was never articulated that rules had changed, I can kind of see her argument there. But other than that, and I'm not saying that those storylines that she was subjected to hearing about weren't wrong by any means, but just stepping back and just looking at it from a complaint standpoint, to me it looks like that she heard about these storylines, wrote an alternative, and they said no. It's not like they forced her to write the racial and insensitive stuff, redraft it with the unsensitive, racial stuff in there.
Well, one they did.
One they did, okay. But still, it just sounds like that they're like, yeah, sounds good, but we're not going to use it. I can understand if they forced her to put this type of content.
They obviously did change the storyline, because I don't remember any of that ever happening on TV.
Yeah.
I think we would have heard about it if it did.
So, I mean, again, I agree with her that it's racist and insensitive, but if she's not being forced to participate in that, now if Bianca Belair was told you're going to go out there and say this line, now there's a complaint.
My assumption is her bringing it to light is to put an end to it, is to make sure everyone knows it's happening.
I did skip over one note here. So in or around November 2021, a black female writer's assistant was fired after reporting WWE lead writer Callahan for creating a racially hostile work environment. Shortly thereafter, WWE questioned the plaintiff about her experiences with Callahan. Plaintiff asked if she, quote, witnessed or was victim of harassment on the creative writing team. So think about that. So the claim here is she was asked if she witnessed or was the victim of. Plaintiff described the discrimination and hostile work environment that she had been subjected to by Peppermint and had witnessed by Peppermint towards other minority employees. At a different time, plaintiff received a call from WWE Human Resources. They said, quote, it was brought to our attention that you called some pitches racist, and I want to know if it was directed at you or a part or direction for a storyline. Plaintiff told them that it was a storyline, but that it came from WWE lead writer Callahan. However, WWE Human Resources kept repeating, quote, but was it said about you, close quote. WWE never agreed that it shouldn't have been said at all by someone of authority. WWE never asked if the plaintiff was okay after hearing those racist or sexist pitches. And then they pull in some other writers as witnesses, like, yeah, he had these other writers had kind of taken Brittany aside and said, yeah, I think it's really bad that this is happening. And they're kind of referenced in here as well.
So again, bringing the lawsuit is a means, I don't know for sure, is a means to bring this to light and make sure it doesn't happen again. But I don't understand why she would ask to be reinstated.
Yeah.
I think...
Unless she wants to work at ending it from the inside.
This is all obviously conjecture. We don't know what's going on. But I guess one reason that I could think of to want reinstatement would be to, maybe she doesn't really want reinstatement, but she wants to ask for it because she wants to show that she truly values the job, that she loved what she did, and that there aren't a million places on earth that you can do this, certainly full-time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There's basically one other company she could go work for full-time to do this, a much smaller company with much less reach. So I don't know, like, if it was offered to her, if she would actually take it back. I think oftentimes stuff like this is, because it's, oh, what a terrible racist environment. Oh, I'm such a miserable little peon that can have no impact on the system, but I want to get right back into that system. There is kind of a weird question mark there about, like, unless you're trying to pitch your passion for it, why would you do this? It is kind of weird that she was let go a year ago before they make the filing. There is a claim in here that she has had a lot of trouble finding employment, not just like as a result of word getting around or whatever about her in the industry, that she's had a hard time getting writer jobs outside of here. So maybe she looked for a while, and when she couldn't find anything, she was like, well, I got to do what I got to do.
Right.
But I think either way, what's interesting to me about this is that it's all kind of plausible. Bad pitches, people saying things off the cuff, maybe they meant it in jest, but it wasn't taken in jest. And because nobody really directed or like talked about things head on, uncomfortable things head on, and kind of addressed it,
Right.
it kind of just festered. And after a year, now, did they not have a legitimate reason for letting her go? I don't know. That'll be interesting to see what their response is, what their formal response is to this filing. Like they might say, yeah, we fired her and here's all this documentation. She was constantly late to work. She failed a drug test. She did X, Y, and Z. But if they don't come up with any of that kind of stuff, I'm not sure what your response to this is going to be, because her claim in here is that she's an exemplary employee, and I'm sure she's got the pay stubs to show she got raises every year.
Right.
So, you know, it's
I mean,
interesting nonetheless.
Again, like I said, I just, I understand the terrible storylines, ideas, and the terrible dialogue that was written. But again, if she's not being put in a situation to be forced to work with, other, I don't understand the nature. I guess the nature of the complaint. I mean, again, you walk out there and tell your wrestler you're going to go out there and you're going to take credit for 9/11, and you're going to do it with a smile on your face. That's a problem. You tell Bianca Belair you're going to say these, terrible, stereotypic slurs, and you're going to like it. That's a problem. You go up to Brittany and say, rewrite your draft, but you are going to put in these racial stereotypes, and I want to see them in there. That's a problem, but it doesn't seem like any of that happened.
That's an interesting nuance.
You know what I'm saying? It was like she, saw it. It wasn't cool. So she wrote a treatment of it, handed in, and they're like, yeah, we like ours better. I mean, where's the complaint? I mean, other than it's obviously garbage what they wrote. Mm-hmm. I don't see a complaint there. Now, again, then when we talk about the chairs, if it's common practice for 10 years that people just take these chairs and nothing's ever been said, and then all of a sudden she's making a stir about these racially insensitive storylines that are being written, and she takes a chair, and now it's an issue.
Yeah.
And now you're fired. There I see a complaint.
I don't know why you couldn't just,
I
don't know. It is, the timing of it is weird, because it's so feast and famine. Like, you couldn't just wait a couple of months for the next round of layoffs to come through. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it just seems so on the nose. Like, I don't think anyone's going to, I would be very surprised if anyone came in to dispute the order of events. They might tweak the nature or the tone, but I don't think anyone's going to be like, no, she wasn't fired right after WrestleMania. No, it didn't have anything to do with the chairs, So we'll see what happens. We'll see
either
what
way,
I think they have to file a response.
if what she's saying, is legit and it really did upset her, and no one in the company kind of helped steer her through that, I hope she gets what she wants out of this lawsuit.
Is this the type of lawsuit that WWE would just settle?
It is interesting that it's been however many days now, almost 30, and they haven't.
It's like the initial filing was April
the
24th.
Yeah.
So a month?
So we're coming up on a month. We're 3 weeks in now, and they haven't filed a response yet. I don't know whether they have 30 or 60 or 90 days to file a response. Yeah, I mean, they have to make a business decision. I think their next move will be very telling, though. Do they fight this, or do they throw some money at it to make it go away? Because, again, with the merger coming, it's just one of those little tiny things. You're talking about a $22 billion merger, and you got this little lawsuit that's going to hold everything up. It's just,
They might, it's a good point. They might just brush it under the rug.
And who knows? Maybe she's satisfied with it, and maybe she isn't. I don't know. We'll see. And of course there'll be an NDA associated with it, so we'll never find out if there is a settlement, what came of it. We'll never know. But let's take a few minutes because we're running a little over time now. But I wanted to jump ahead to a more brief but an interesting bonus topic. This idea popped into my head. I was thinking about the end of this month, and I was looking at the last weekend, Memorial Day weekend specifically, and I realized that on Friday the 26th, you have a premium live event, Impact Under Siege, in London, Ontario. On Saturday, you have Impact Under Siege Fallout in London, Ontario, AEW Double or Nothing in Las Vegas, and then WWE Clash of Champions in Saudi Arabia. Then on Sunday, you have WWE NXT Battleground in Lowell, Massachusetts on Sunday.
Double or Nothing's on Sunday, not Saturday.
I'm sorry, Double or Nothing is on Sunday, you're right. Mm-hmm. So switch that from Saturday to Sunday. So I guess, and I was looking ahead at the future TV schedule. Monday's Raw, Tuesday's NXT, Wednesday's Dynamite, Thursday's Impact, Friday's SmackDown and Rampage, Saturday's Collision, and then Sunday you got premium live events galore all over the place. Is the industry becoming too saturated? Is there too much wrestling? Are we in a world where there's too much wrestling? Not to mention all the indie shows and stuff you can find on YouTube. Is there too much wrestling? Because this is a lot.
If you're a diehard wrestling fan and you live for wrestling, no.
Yeah.
If you're a casual fan that's just trying to keep up, you know.
So
If you're a few guys running a weekly YouTube channel, yeah, there's a lot to watch.
Well, that's why I said we watch it so you don't have to. Just watch us, people. We'll tell you if it's bullshit or not.
What happened on Ring of Honor? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing is that kind of plays into WWE's hands because, like you mentioned earlier, if you're a casual fan,
Yeah.
there's a gravity. They're the biggest planet in the solar system, so there's a gravity, and you're going to get pulled towards that gravity, and that's going to suck air out of the room for Impact, for NXT, even for AEW, which is the next biggest planet in the solar system.
There's a reason why ticket prices double when the Yankees go into Colorado to play the Rockies.
Well, yeah, that's because they're the Yankees.
Yeah,
There's fans everywhere. They outnumber the hometown fans in the stands.
Well, but again, WWE, they're the Yankees. AEW, you're probably thinking they're like the Angels. They're kind of in that in between.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a following, and they
Yeah.
do offer a different product that
Yeah.
does offer its own unique style, I guess might be the right way to say it, a little more indie. I don't know. I can't help but think, Impact is continuing to grow. I didn't mention this in the
They're
rumors.
the Pittsburgh Pirates.
I didn't mention this in the news and rumors, but Impact is premiering some what are they called? The tokens. The tokens on the computer. Boy, now I'm sounding technologically advanced. I keep wanting to say FTRs, but that's not what it is.
NFTs.
NFTs, yes, that's what I'm talking about. NFTs.
I didn't know those were still a thing.
Non-fungible tokens. Yeah. And what I said on Twitter was, hey, if you need to raise capital, because if you're growing, you have a cash flow issue. You're spending money, but you don't have any money coming in yet. If you're Tony Khan, you got to put the money up to get Wembley, to sell tickets, to make the money back you just spent on getting Wembley and all the wrestlers and all the infrastructure and all that stuff, right? It takes money to make money. So if you're a growing company, and I believe Impact is growing, and you want to hire more talent and increase your production and start traveling more, because they are traveling again a lot more, that takes cash. And if you got to raise cash, what better way to do it than to say, here's a special picture of your favorite wrestler. They're doing one for Santino, and I think Mickie James is getting her own this summer. So, if you buy one of those, just consider it a charitable donation, because the odds of you getting your money back for it are very slim. And you can't be disappointed if you consider it charitable. So I guess that's just my way of saying that with all the companies growing, I don't see the market growing. I mean, what were the ratings back during the Attitude Era? 4 million, 5 million, 6 million. Pay-per-view buys over 1 million for big pay-per-views.
Yeah, but
we're not seeing those numbers now, even though the population's 30% larger than it was 25 years ago.
You also need to take in consideration technology and social media and how that's blown up and how that's changed how people watch television and watch their content now.
Even counting all that, though, I just don't.
Are you kidding me?
A lot of
you pay a monthly subscription, a $9 subscription to Peacock, and you have every single WWE pay-per-view for free. In 1998, you were paying $60 every month.
That's what I'm saying. So why aren't the viewership numbers? Those don't necessarily get counted in the ratings. There's a reason why WWE, when they're talking about their finances, and you saw it all over social media after Backlash, Bad Bunny's match had 40 million views.
Okay.
Okay. Well, the ad dollars that you're going to get off of Raw on primetime, SmackDown on primetime, NXT on primetime aren't going to be nearly as high as the quarter cent you get for the view on YouTube or whatever. And yet they're listing them next to each other almost as if they're the same thing. This was something I brought up years ago when you and I first started wrestling the business and we were talking about it. I was like, why on a quarterly earnings call, why are you talking about how many mentions you have in your Twitter bio? What revenue does that generate for you? You're pitching 40 million views. Yeah, okay, people went on the Peacock channel for YouTube and watched, Bad Bunny do a frog splash 40 million times. What did that generate for you? $35,000 in revenue off of all the Google searches? For you and me, that's a lot of money. But for them, it's nothing. For them, it's a very tiny drop in a very, very large bucket. And yet they're listing it as if it's like, oh, we had 1 million pay-per-view buys. Like it's 1998. You know what I mean? Like it's Halloween Havoc 1998, and at $60 a pop, we just made $60 million. It's obnoxious, but we just made millions of dollars selling it, It's not the same thing. So the market isn't growing, but the competition inside the market is growing. Impact is bigger than it was 20 years ago. But Impact is now the third or fourth largest promotion.
I disagree with that. 20 years ago, they were selling out arenas, 7,000, 10,000 seat arenas. Now they've got maybe their best crowd's 500 people in the crowd.
Well, that might be the weekly thing, but I think
also think of the talent they had 20 years ago too.
Right.
Hulk Hogan, Sting, Ric Flair.
Before that, even AJ Styles, Samoa Joe.
They have great talent now. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but they don't have names
they're also not spending the money on those names. They're also not paying Hulk Hogan. They're also not paying Sting or the Hardys. That's what I'm saying. Like, I guess you're right. When it comes to raw revenue dollars adjusted for inflation, they might be smaller than they were, but I'll bet you they're more profitable than they were back then.
That could be.
Because you're not paying. You're not paying for Jeff Jarrett
Yeah.
and Hulk Hogan and Sting and the Hardy Boys anymore. But you're getting great talent, producing great content, and like you said, you're getting the streaming revenue. I pay for Impact. That's $8 a month plus $1 for YouTube so I can watch stuff live. So, I don't know. We are way over time, so we appreciate you guys hanging out with us if you're still here with us. But that's all we have time for now this week on Wrestling with the Business. Please do us a favor. Tell us what you think below. What were your good, bad, and ugly moments from Backlash? Does the Abraham's lawsuit have any legs underneath it? Is the wrestling market becoming too saturated? Where do you usually watch your wrestling programming? And where would you like to watch it if you could? And if you like what you see, please like, comment, share, subscribe to Insane Games TV. Find us on Twitter at Wrestle with Biz, Facebook Wrestling with the Business. For more updates and sharp and witty commentary from the three suave gentlemen that you see before you now. In the meantime, you keep watching, and we'll keep wrestling with the business. See you next time.